breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. The Boston Red Sox have made a trade. Jeff Passan with the tweet here. John Heyman was the first one to report it. The Red Sox acquire right-hander Sonny Gray in a trade with the St. Louis Cardinals. We'll talk about everything you need to know in today's edition of the Red Sox Rundown. I am your host, Jack Lautaret. This is why you subscribe, because when the Red Sox make a move, we make a video. I put a short out right before this with the original news, and in this video, we're going to break down everything you need to know. And we're going to do this the entire offseason long because I would assume the Red Sox are not done. I would hope and I would pray that this is just step one in a multi-step plan to make the Red Sox a World Series contender in 2026. So you're not going to want to miss any of it. Hit that sub button if you've not already. Joined the channel for the latest around the Boston Red Sox. So, Sonny Gray headed to the Red Sox. There was talks that Sonny Gray would be available on the trade market. There were talks, obviously, that the Red Sox were going to be looking for a trade. He waived his no-trade clause to leave, and he now joins the Boston Red Sox, and we have the full trade details. Here is the full trade. Sonny Gray headed to Boston, as well as $20 million cash. The Cardinals are receiving Richard Fitts. Yes, Dick Fitts is headed to St. Louis, and Brandon Clark, the number 5 prospect in the Red Sox system, another pitcher as well. So I was lukewarm on this trade at first, and the reason why was because one of the reasons why, at least, is because Sonny Gray was owed 3 years, $75 million for the rest of his contract. Well, according to Ken Rosenthal, that is actually not the case. The contract was reworked to a 1-year plus mutual option. The 2026 salary will be $31 million, and the mutual option buyout is $10 million. So essentially, Sonny Gray is getting a 1-year, $41 million contract. And then when you add the $20 million that the Cardinals are sending to the Red Sox, essentially you're paying Sonny Gray a 1-year, $21 million deal. Like I said, he was previously due $35 and $26 with a $5 million buyout on a $30 million club option in $27. And then, of course, this was before we got the trade details. But basically what's happening is the Red Sox are sending Richard Fitts and Brandon Clark to the St. Louis Cardinals for Sonny Gray on a 1-year, 20-ish million dollar deal. You let me know in the comments. What is your one-word reaction to the Sonny Gray trade? I would say mine's probably lukewarm. That's probably the best way I could put that. But you let me know down below. What is your one-word reaction to the Sonny Gray trade? So like I said, my one word is lukewarm. Originally, I hated this trade. I thought this trade was horrible because of the money. The fact that now they have reworked his contract to, again, basically a 1-year deal, and they are bringing on $20 million, makes me feel at least a little bit better. However, this cannot be the only starting pitching transaction that the Red Sox make this offseason. If we look at Sonny Gray over the past 4 seasons, he's a vet. He's been around the league for a while. But you could argue in 2023, he had arguably the best season of his entire career. He finished 3rd, I believe it is, in Cy Young voting that season. Like, he's still got some juice in the tank. Second in Cy Young voting in 2023 when he was with the Minnesota Twins. He was an all-star that year as well. But I'm not convinced that he's your number 2. In 2025, 180 innings pitched, a FIP of 339, a 4.28 ERA. But there's a lot of underlying metrics here that are at least interesting, to say the least. And I think the biggest things you can take away from these Baseball Savant screenshots is he eats innings, he strikes people out, and he doesn't walk people. That's the biggest thing you're going to get from Sonny Gray. I think a lot of people are going to compare this, and I would as well, to Lucas Giolito. I think this is your Lucas Giolito replacement. It cannot be your number 2. But for 1 year, $20 million, and if you gave Lucas Giolito the qualifying offer, that was 1 year, $22 million. So you're really getting a Lucas Giolito-esque pitcher for $20-ish million. Now you had to give prospects away, and maybe Breslow and Bailey think very highly of Sonny Gray, which I could definitely see. But at the end of the day, he eats innings, he doesn't walk a bunch, and he strikes out a bunch. So I don't hate that. I don't hate adding Sonny Gray to this rotation. I think he could be a very valuable member of the Red Sox in 2026. But I want to make this super, super abundantly clear. He's not your number 2. He cannot be your number 2. I'd probably slot him behind Brian Bayo, if I was being honest. Like I said, he is your Lucas Giolito replacement, which I didn't really think you needed a Lucas Giolito replacement. I was very, happy with the depth that you had in your starting rotation, especially in the minors. Like, you had a lot of really interesting guys. And now I guess Sonny Gray will slot in as your 3, maybe your 4, but he can't be your number 2. I'm going to stake my claim here. I'm going to be abundantly clear. If Sonny Gray is your number 2 going into spring training, okay? If he is your number 2 after Breslow didn't promise, but he got on his high horse and he said he was super confident we need to get that top of the line starter that can go up with Garrett Crochet and be a guy that starts you playoff games and this and that and the other. And if Sonny Gray is who he believes is that guy, I think Craig Breslow should be fired. Because that is malpractice. Sonny Gray is not that. You may see some interesting traits in Sonny Gray, but he's not your number 2. He will not be your number 2. If Freddie Peralta gets traded to another team, if Mackenzie Gore gets traded to another team, God forbid Joe Ryan gets traded to another team, and you're left with Sonny Gray, come on, man. You can't get on your pedestal. You can't get on your high horse and say, yeah, we're looking for another stud to go toe-to-toe with Garrett Crochet to be that number 2. Sonny Gray's not that. Perfectly fine pitcher. 1-year deal, replace Lucas Giolito, I'm all fine for that. But he cannot be the only move that you make for a starter this season. Let's talk about what they gave away. Richard Fitz. Rip Dick Fitz. Rest in peace. It was fun. I actually got to meet him at On-Field Photo Day in the summer. He's a really cool dude. Look, didn't work out in Boston. Had some lingering injuries that he was dealing with, so it is what it is. But I was actually very excited to see how he was going to do in 2026. I thought he was going to compete for that back-end rotation spot, and it just didn't work out. So, Chaim Bloom, Richard Fitz and Brandon Clark both were not connected to Chaim Bloom at all, but I guess Chaim Bloom saw something in Richard Fitz that he really liked. I think he'll probably compete for a starter spot in St. Louis this year, and it is what it is. Brandon Clark, on the other hand, number 5 prospect according to MLB Pipeline, but what I'm hearing from a lot of people is that's kind of skewed because he had, a pretty good summer that kind of rocketed him up the standings. Tyler Milliken basically said that he thinks he projects out more to number 10 to 15 in the Red Sox pipeline, so I wouldn't put too much stock into him being the number 5 prospect in the league. But he's got a high-powered arm. He's very intriguing, and he profiles as a reliever. But if the Cardinals can bring him in and make him into a starter, he could be absolutely filthy. My overall take on this trade is this: I have high hopes. I had high hopes for Richard Fitz. Like I said, I thought he could compete for that back-end number 5 spot in your rotation. Would he get it? I don't know. There's a lot of depth, like we've already talked about. And Clark is highly regarded. Again, like maybe not as highly regarded as number 5 in the Red Sox pipeline rankings. Like I said, he probably profiles more 10 to 15 in the pipeline rankings, but he's got nasty stuff, and he has the potential to be a really, really nasty reliever. But again, if Chaim Bloom likes what he sees and he can bring him in and they can shift him into a starter, he could turn into a pretty filthy starter if all things work out. I don't love this trade as a whole. Big if, I don't love this trade if Sonny Gray's your number 2. I'm okay with giving away the prospects for the Cardinals to eat a lot of the money. I think that he could be a very, very, very impactful number 3, number 4 in the rotation. But like I've already said with Craig Breslow, if Craig Breslow thinks that his work is done and Sonny Gray is the number 2, Red Sox Nation's not going to be happy. After over the last few weeks, he has stood on his soapbox and said, we need that dog at number 2. Sonny Gray's a good dude. Sonny Gray's a decent pitcher. He ain't a dog. He is not a dog, and he is not your number 2. Grade the Sonny Gray trade for me. A, B, C, D, or F. Originally, I was at like a D. With the money coming back from St. Louis, I'll give it a C+, but I'll give it a B-. You know what? I'll give it a B- because you're paying him less than the qualifying offer that you would have given to Lucas Giolito if he is your Giolito replacement. If he turns out to be your number 2, that's like a D trade. Seriously. Like seriously. But if he ends up being your 3 or your 4, I'll give it a B- because they got some of the money off the books. It really is just a bona fide 1-year deal. And, hopefully I think he can contribute in this Red Sox system. That's where we're going to end it, guys. Thank you all so much for taking the time to watch this video. Like I said this, I think, in yesterday's video or the video before, stuff is going to start to happen. Boom. Next day, Sonny Gray is traded to the Boston Red Sox. When the Red Sox make a move, we make a video. This is going to come out just over an hour after the news originally broke. I got my producer Xavier in here. We got the graphics ready. We got the copy ready, and we are bringing you the news. So make sure you subscribe. Don't miss out, because as more moves happen, and again, I truly, firmly believe that the Red Sox are not done. I hope and I pray to the baseball gods that Breslow is not done trying to add starting pitchers. So when those moves happen, we're going to make videos just like this. So don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button, and until next time, go Sox.